Private Hospitals Malaysia, Datuk Dr. Kuljit Singh said this would help speed up the country's target of achieving herd immunity.
What we have seen in other parts of the world, including UK and even some parts of the United States, in areas where they had vaccinated widely, the numbers have actually come down. You can already see initial stage of some sort of herd immunity. The worry of variants will also be a little bit less. So I think the ultimate game plan here is to vaccinate widely. The moment you get your vaccine, if you really want people to make up their mind to decide on their vaccine, sometimes that can take a long time. And the group of people that are vaccinating now are a high-risk group, but they are all aged. They are all in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. I believe they must be vaccinated, but they are not economic frontliners. The economic frontliners are the ones who are getting COVID and they are widely spreading it. So those are the younger group of people. But
according to Kuljit, the opt-in appointments for the AstraZeneca jabs, which started on Wednesday, saw a positive response by mostly middle-aged economic frontliners.
I only hope the other countries in the world who have the capacity or the influence to get this vaccine earlier in bigger numbers should stop doing it. They should widely allow other countries to get their vaccines, including Malaysia and many other smaller countries for that matter. Yes, if you don't have vaccine, then of course you cannot do anything. But once you get enough of vaccine in the month of July, my suggestion is to open up in this manner, and it will definitely help the herd immunity.
Coordinating Minister for the National COVID-19 Immunization Program, Khairi Jamaluddin, said the program was hindered because of inadequate vaccine supply due to unfair and unethical vaccines distribution at the global level.
Khairi Jamaluddin has said a public-private sector COVID-19 vaccination drive will only commence when there is sufficient vaccine supply. The minister in charge of vaccine was responding to claims on social media that there is a parallel program to the national COVID-19 immunization program. Responding to questions regarding a program called the Public-Private Partnership Immunization Model, he explained that the program was specifically designed to assist workers for manufacturing and related services to receive the COVID-19 vaccine jab on site. But the program will only commence when there are enough vaccines for the general public in Phase 3 and not when vaccines are in short supply. He also explained that program was an expression of interest and is yet to start. The Youth and Sports Ministry will review a ban on sports and recreational activities in MCO areas after facing backlash from the public and health experts. Minister Datuk Sri Rizal Merican Naina Merican said he would be proposing more reasonable approaches when it comes to sports and recreation at the National Security Council meeting today. Taking it to Facebook, the ministry said that it had received many reactions regarding the SOPs imposed on the sector. Earlier, Deputy Youth and Sports Minister Wan Ahmad Faisal defended the government's decision to bar outdoor exercise for areas under the MCO. This is amid criticism from medical experts who argued that the COVID-19 risk from outdoor exercise was low. As the government reviews its SOPs for sports and recreational activities under MCO areas, we explore what are the actual risks of getting infected with COVID-19 when these activities are carried out. Is there a potential risk for those who jog alone that may lead to more clusters? Director of Tropical Infectious Diseases Research and Education Centre, University of Malaya, Professor Dr. Sazali bin Abu Bakar weighs in on the matter.
The risk of getting infection from outdoor activities are actually minimal, because people actually have done studies. Scientists have actually done actual physics calculation to show that the risk of getting infection from outdoor activities is so much lower compared to when it is outdoor. There are three factors that actually favor doing activities outside. Number one is the temperature. The temperature is much higher when you do activities outdoor, and the humidity, especially this part of the world, in our country, where the humidity is very high outside. And of course, we have a natural air circulation. So these are the three factors, actually, which do not favor the survival of the virus, or the transmission of the virus as compared to indoor. So, as far as I'm concerned, I don't see any scientific evidence to support that restricting outdoor activities. But of course, in order to make sure there is no transmission take place, I personally will agree that we should not allow any form of contact sports, and any form of group activities, So I think all those Tai Chi that you do in the morning, I think that's not a good idea to do Tai Chi now in group,
Sazali adds that the risk of being infected with the virus is even lower for those engaging in individual sports, and that some form of exercise and outdoor activities are required for your well-being.
All these individual sports, when there is you will not come in contact with anyone else. Even if you are infected, if you are alone, you will not be able to infect anyone else. And if you are doing it alone, the chances of you getting infected by an infected person is very small. So running, jogging, cycling on your own, should be allowed. As far as I'm concerned, and there is no scientific evidence to support that we should ban these individual activities. When you are one is already cooped up in a house for hours, getting outdoor is one way to release your anxiety, your depression, and you also need to get your muscles to be moving, and you need to sweat, and that will take the pressure off you, especially psychologically. So it's important to be outdoor, enjoy the greeneries and good air breeze,
Any proposal to redevelop Sultan Abdul Aziz Shah Airport in Subang is still preliminary. The Transport Ministry in a statement today said any consideration and final decision on the proposed redevelopment would be decided by the Cabinet. Yesterday, the Vibes reported that businessman Desmond Lim, the largest shareholder of construction and property development company WCT Holdings, wanted to acquire and operate Subang Airport until 2092 through his subsidiary Subang Skypark Sendirian Berhad. The proposal was presented to the Transport Ministry with an estimated 3.7 billion ringgit of initial investment. Downplaying the proposal, the ministry said it is common practice for the market to submit proposals to the government through the ministry to develop new or existing assets. We'll take a short break. Stay with us.
Khabar baik untuk semua rakyat B40. Dengan Yes Prihatin belajar dari rumah, Yes memberikan telefon pintar percuma dan data percuma. Tiada deposit, tiada kontrak, tiada bayaran. Ini memang milik anda. Tuntut sekarang di yes.my/kasih-up B40.
Welcome back. India today reported a new record daily rise in COVID-19 cases of over 414,000, while virus-related deaths swelled by nearly 4,000. The South Asian giant battles a massive coronavirus surge as neighbouring countries seal its borders to avoid risk of imported cases. India's total infections now stand at 21.49 million, with over 230,000 fatalities. In just this week, the second most populous nation added 1.75 million cases and over 15,000 deaths. Sri Lanka on Thursday became the latest of India's neighbours to seal its borders. Bangladesh and Nepal also banned flights and sought to close borders with India as they battle their own pandemic surges. While luxury tourist destination Maldives tightened restrictions for Indian visitors, making them test negative first before allowed entry. Australia will lift a controversial ban on travellers from India next week and resume repatriation flights for citizens trapped in the country. The Australian government, for the first time in history, recently imposed a temporary ban on its citizens from returning home due to the surge in COVID-19 infections in India.
Prime Minister Scott Morrison's decision to bar all travel from India until May 15th drew heavy criticism from lawmakers and the Indian diaspora. The government threatened to prosecute them with a possibility of 5 years of jail term or a penalty of 66,000 Australian dollars. Morrison's remarks came a day after the ban was challenged in the federal court in Sydney by a 73-year-old Australian who has been stranded in Bengaluru since March last year.
Meanwhile, Australia is likely to remain closed off to visitors until late 2022. Trade and Tourism Minister Dan Tien said a near blanket ban on arrivals is still essential to keep the country COVID-19 free. Another global surge in COVID-19 have crushed hopes of a quick reopening of international borders. Since March 20th last year, Australians have been barred from travelling overseas, and a hard-to-get individual exemption is needed for foreign visitors to enter the country. Before the pandemic, around 1 million short-term visitors entered the country each month. That figure is now around 7,000. Anyone who does enter must undergo 14 days of strict hotel quarantine. The Speaker of Parliament in Maldives and former President Mohamed Nasheed was being treated for shrapnel wounds and in stable condition after a blast outside his family home on Thursday. His party said that so far nobody has claimed responsibility for the explosion in the capital, Malé.
Local media reports suggested that a homemade explosive device was planted on a motorcycle parked near his car. Nasheed, who is currently Speaker of Parliament, was getting into his car when the blast occurred. He was the first democratically elected president of the Maldives after winning a multi-party elections in 2008, but was ousted in a coup 4 years later.
We have not had the results that we had wanted.
In the US, a girl reported to be 11 or 12 years old shot and wounded 2 students and a member of staff at a school in the state of Idaho. Police said the pupil brought a gun to Rigby Middle School and opened fire. The 3 victims are expected to survive. A female teacher managed to disarm the girl and detain her until police took her into custody. The motive for the shooting is not yet clear. As COVID-19 rages in India, is there hope of bringing the pandemic under control in the short term? Tonight on Consider This, we speak to Professor Sanjeev Krishna on what we can learn from the unfolding crisis in India and how quickly things can take a turn for the worse. That is all we have for you on AWANI Tonight. Get the latest news update on COVID-19 and COVID-19 vaccines from astroawani.com and Astro Awani app. I'm Farhana Sheikh. We'll see you tomorrow.
Kerjasama strategik membabitkan Google dan Astro Awani dalam memacu peralihan perniagaan kecerdasan PKS tempatan ke arah digital, satu langkah yang bertepatan dengan agenda transformasi digital negara, kata Pengurusi Perbadanan Ekonomi Digital Malaysia, MDEC. Persatuan Badminton Malaysia (BM) mengumumkan penganjuran kejohanan terbuka Malaysia yang dijadualkan pada 25 hingga 30 Mei ini ditangguhkan. UMNO merasa kerajaan menyegerakan penubuhan Suruhanjaya Siasatan Diraja terhadap pendedahan bekas Peguam Negara Tan Sri Tommy Thomas dan bekas Ketua Polis Negara Tan Sri Abdul Hamid Bado. Laporan penuh di saluran 501 dan astroawani.com.
Data percuma bermula dengan Yes! 40 GB percuma, eksklusif bagi rakyat P40. Kad SIM dihantar secara percuma, tidak perlu keluar rumah pun. Layari yes.my untuk